What was it like being raised in an unusual environment? Like a boat traveling the world, touring with a family band? Or with interesting parents? Geniuses, famous, very popular. This is kinda dark, but I have a very famous father among the opera, classical music, theater people. Yet he was emotionally abusive. It's so surreal having everyone think this is the greatest man they've ever met while behind closed doors. My mother and I were in a living hell. When my mother eventually spoke up about the abuse to her so-called friends, everyone chastised her for being a lying bitch and trying to stain this amazing man's name. When I spoke up about it, these people would tell me I was a horrible, ungrateful child or would go to hell for hating my wonderful father. In short, a myriad of other things happened. My mom divorced. We tried escaping him. The court gave the asshole joint custody. His mother, my grandmother, came into the picture and was exactly like him but 100x worse plus physically abusive. She tried drowning me one day. Threatened to strangle me and my dog. Etc. All while people told me they envied my perfect life with such an amazing and talented family, hoping I would continue their legacy in the fine arts as an opera singer. Hell no. Eventually Mom and I escaped to another country for 2 years and we've never seen them since. My dad is fairly well known in the programming world, but it never really resonated with us. He would work crazy hours to develop new programs, yet still find time to be an incredible dad. I remember he used to eat espresso beans plain because he felt that they worked better than drinking espresso. Whenever he would have a new app or idea done, he would have us demo it on video as the typical user. I only recently realized what a big deal he was when I was working in DC and there was a big tech conference he was speaking at. He invited me to the cocktail reception afterwards and every single person wanted to talk to him. It was insane. The biggest takeaway for me was what an incredible dad he was, not sacrificing his family for work he obviously loved and excelled at. Parents owned a bar and music venue. I was exposed to a wealth of art, culture, and people that most parents try to shield their children from. Pros: I am very knowledgeable about art and people. Cons: my parents were too busy doing cocaine to bother parenting me much. What about unusual environments that weren't positive? Lol. I grew up in a hoarder house. I couldn't really have friends over and we rarely had any guests. Before I got my own room, I shared one with my sister. I had to climb over junk to get to my bed. I also had mushrooms. Yes, literal mushrooms, growing in between my bed and the wall. In elementary school, I used to crumple up my bad grade papers and just throw them in between my bed and the wall. Nobody noticed the mushrooms, so they sure as hell won't check my paper. When my brother eventually moved out, I got his room. Around 13 to 14. It had the same black mold problems as the rest of the house. But I would scrub it every year. Until I moved out. It was the cleanest room in the house. I vacuumed it a few times a week. No animals were allowed in my room. My mom had a ton of animals that would pee and poop everywhere. I burned incense constantly to get the smell out and I always cleaned. But after like 8, 9, I couldn't have any friends over. My house was too dirty for that. I was known as the smelly kid until I started doing my own laundry as a teenager. My mother and her husband continued to be hoarders long after I moved out. Tried to clean their house at least twice. When we tried to shampoo the carpets, it turned to sludge. Just had to get rid of all the carpets. Tried to throw stuff away. Every time I put broken stuff out on the curb, my stepdad would bring it right back in. We can use this broken lamp. Quote. Like, dude, you have at least 10 broken lamps in your house with random shit piled on top of them. You don't need this one. Lol. It's nice having my own house where I know I won't have to live that way again. Wasn't me but met a family that had spent close to a decade touring the world on a 30-something foot sailboat. I don't know them well. I was their guest for Thanksgiving weekend almost 20 years ago. They were family friends with the girl I was dating at the time. They'd had a kid underway and lived on the boat for the next 7-ish years. I met them a couple years later when the kid was around 10. My biggest impression was this dude's insane sense of balance. They had a jungle gym, swing set deal in their backyard. And the kid really enjoyed walking along the top crossbar of the swing set * while people were swinging *, making the already narrow bar sway back and forth. I hope that didn't fade over time. I'd like to imagine he's out there somewhere walking tightropes for fun. My childhood was pretty normal, but when I was 18 myself and 2 friends decided to start a traveling circus. We toured every state in America for years. It was grubby, smelly, and sometimes dangerous. But it was an amazing time in my life. Adults of Reddit, since nobody asks you anymore, what's your favorite dinosaur? Compsognathus, they are just so cute and tiny. I love them smiling face. Carnotaurus anyone? Diplodocus, I just love the name. Pachycephalosaurus. Triceratops.
Subscribe, my brothers.